Okay, people, listen. There are points where I realize I might be wrong about something. And like a grown ass man, I will admit, hey, I made a mistake or I was wrong about something, and then you move on. And sometimes, hey, occasionally the Uno reverse card is dropped and say, hey, Kit, I was wrong about something. Can you forgive me? I'm sorry, and hey, guess what? That's all good. You move on. But I've never seen anybody cope this hard, especially after being ridiculed online. So what am I talking about? Well, it has to do with the Joe Rogan show in which comedian Dave Smith basically, and in my opinion, smacked around the expert, okay? The expert. And look, you got to learn to let things go, okay? Because the internet, while it is forever, the internet will forget. I call it the blurring effect, but I will talk less about my own theories about the internet for another day. But Douglas Murray, so-called Israel-Hamas-Ukraine war expert, spew false info on Joe Rogan's podcast. There has to be a standard. What is going on? Last week, I seem to have broken the internet. I went back on the Joe Rogan podcast to talk about my new book, Oh, Democracies and Death Cults, Israel and the Future of Civilization, which is available at all good bookstores and on Audible, since you ask. Well, I didn't ask, but okay, thank you. Whatever. I've been on Joe's podcast a number of times before, and I've always enjoyed it. Joe is a master of his art. Dude. Get his wang bone out of your mouth. Get it out. Do a boop. Get it out. A lot of people think they could talk casually, but interestingly, for hours. That's mainly because Joe makes it look so easy. Dude, stop deep-throating. But this time, I went on with a question. Having not spoken to Joe since the wars in Ukraine and Israel started, I'd become increasingly irked. He's irked. He's irked at the guests he has had on. And they all seem to be anti-Ukraine and anti-Israel. Okay. Many of the latter, in particular, are not just vindictively and maliciously anti-Israel, but have been spewing claims that are demonstrably false. Many are also people who are simply in no way expert at what they are talking about. Oh, because step aside here, folks. An expert is somebody who never gets anything wrong. An expert is an authoritative source that believes in what they have been consuming and knowing and will never once challenge their dogmatic perspectives. An expert. Okay, let's talk about experts. All right. Hey, we had experts saying that there were WMDs in Iraq. Oh, oops. Good thing that never blew up. We had experts that said that our election machines can never be tampered with, that our elections are going to be good and safe and accountable, and wait. Numerous examples of the DNC committing election fraud during the 2016-2020 Democratic primaries. Now, it doesn't help that Bernie Sanders was a cuck and let that happen, but there you go. Oh, wait. Everyone shut up. Russia. Oh, wait, that only just led to more Russophobia. We had scientific experts talk to us about the pandemic, and never once, not ever, did anything go wrong. No way. And in fact, the experts ensured that Americans would not go into heavy credit card debt that would follow us for the following years, that businesses would not be shut down, that homeowners and renters wouldn't be evicted, and that we wouldn't be subjects to an experimental vaccine that's only not. Oh, they screwed that up there too. Give me a minute here, folks. I got it. Come on, coach. Don't give up on me. We had experts in the CIA who told us that the Hunter Biden laptop story was false, and even the journalists said, seems like the experts are kind of screwing up here. Huh. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my little pontification about the experts. So, continuing on. So, many are also people who are simply in no way an expert at what they are talking about. Attacks on Israel, One of these is a comedian who goes by the name Dave Smith, the face of evil. Dave Smith. You know what I think when I see Dave Smith? I think Dave Smith just seems to be in this guy's mind rent free. Dave Smith is everywhere around him. Hey, Douglas, baby, where's Dave Smith? Show the people on the internet where Dave Smith hurt you. We need to know. Tell us how evil Dave Smith is. I mean, look, there he is. There's Dave Smith, the man who lives rent free in Douglas Murray's head. That's who he is. So let's talk about it. So one of these is comedian Dave Smith, who goes by the name Dave Smith. You could just say, hey, Dave Smith. Claiming some Jewish ancestry, he has spent the 18 months since October 7th, 2023, being very unfunny indeed. Being unfunny? What? I've seen some of Dave Smith's work. He's actually pretty funny, actually, okay? I might not agree with him the whole point, but you know what? I think he's all right. After all, I didn't notice at the time, but just I want to give him a shout out. He was actually here in Chicago, so I missed out on seeing one of his shows. I would have gone, but, you know, I'm sorry. Sorry, Dave Smith. Maybe next time. But, hey, look, I mean, people are going to his shows. He was in Chicago and in Rosemount, so there you go. There you go, whatever. So specifically, he has decided to spend his time going around the podcast world sounding off about Israel. In the process, he largely cites people like him, people who have many views, but no obvious expertise. People like Daryl Cooper, who says he isn't a historian, yet has been invited onto some of the world's biggest podcasts as a historian. You sound jelly that you weren't invited. One of Cooper's many ahistorical claims is that Winston Churchill was the chief villain of World War II. Well, listen, the main chief villain was first name Adolf, last name Hitler. But let's be clear here. A lot of leaders had skeletons in their closets, from good old Uncle Stalin to Grandpa Roosevelt to crazy Churchill himself. They all had a lot of issues. These were not mentally sound people, but hey, it's the best we could do. On these and many other occasions, Cooper has simply lied about history. When invited to debate the world's foremost living expert on Churchill last year, he declined, saying that he didn't know enough to go up against such a figure. Yet still, Cooper gets invited on show after show to throw out falsehoods that he can't even back up. Well, what does this have to do with Dave Smith? Dave Smith has said he's a comedian, but he's allowed to have an opinion and he's allowed to do his own research. I spent some time hanging out with a lot of comedians in my time, from Lee Camp, Jimmy Dore, all that jazz. Okay. And you know what I've seen them all do? Do their own research, or either that have what you like, experts on their show to inform their audiences. And thus everyone else gets educated further. Just like what I tell my audience to do. I don't care where they politically align. I tell them, yes, do your own research too, because that's what I expect from my audience. But besides that, why is this cool? What does this have to do with Dave Smith? It seems like you're writing an angry hate letter because Dave Smith seems to have rejected you or ghosted you on Tinder. All right, so there you go. Anyways, continuing on. And on which his online interviews seem happy not to challenge him. First of all, let me just acknowledge just how terrible this entire article is. All this is like one sentence. It's like a poem. Where's the paragraphs? Where is all this? I mean, all this is heavily spaced to make this look bigger than it needs to be. What is this? What kind of article is, what kind of opinion piece is this? Douglas, this isn't very expertise of you. I don't like it. It offends my expertise. How does that sound? Another such figure from the world of comedy who is changing his shape to fit at the time is a Rogan guest, Ian Carroll. What does this have to do with Dave Smith? Again, Ian Carroll? This is someone who, when he last went on Rogan's podcast, very carefully tried to minimize the evil of Adolf Hitler. Outrageously and completely falsely, Carroll claimed that in the 1930s, Hitler had kept his anti-Semitism down, and a provably false claim that Rogan did not counter. All these men have been palling around online with Holocaust deniers and proud anti-Semites like Jake Shields. So what did all of this have to do with Dave Smith? You said attacks on Israel. This entire paragraph right here. I want to be clear on this. Look at this entire paragraph. Okay, it's titled Attacks on Israel. First, you bring up Dave Smith. Then you bring up Daryl Cooper, Winston Churchill, Ian Carroll, and Adolf Hitler. What, did all four of them get in like a tank and start attacking Israel? Because I don't see that sentence in this paragraph here. None of this makes any sense. You said attacks on Israel. I'm assuming Dave Smith said some sort of malicious thing or called for attacks on Israel, and I don't see that in there because I follow Dave Smith's work, and he has never once said that. Okay? This is stupid. Douglas Murray, you sound like a jealous ex-girlfriend. Anyways. So, sorry. Maybe it's just, I don't know. I was taught to write papers and articles and statements differently. Maybe that's my expertise coming out. Maybe that's it. Hashtag I'm canceled. But you said attacks on Israel. I'm not seeing any attack. I'm seeing you just name some names that seems to rile him up. My bout on Rogan. Yeah, you got smacked around, baby. That's what happened. 2 weeks ago, Rogan had his mate, Dave Smith, on yet again for a long podcast. But for my return to the show, the deal was that I could come on only if Dave Smith was once again in the studio, as if Joe didn't want to be unaccompanied, or that Joe thought it was I, of all his guests, who must be challenged. Dude, Douglas, you sound like a person who would take a dump in their pants and assume that no one would notice or smell. Get over yourself. You're on the Joe Rogan podcast that gets millions upon millions of views, in which people see your name and can follow your content. Shut the hell up and enjoy your slice of pizza. Because that was pretty stupid. That's pretty stupid. Do you think that Joe Rogan one day just woke up and was like, oh man, I'm so afraid of this Douglas Murray guy. Dave Smith, protect me. We got to stop him. He must be challenged. I like a debate as much as the next Scotsman. You bring shame to kilts. But what resulted was more than a debate. It seems to have led to some kind of podcast world meltdown. No, it was you having the meltdown. The first reason was that from the outset, I challenged Joe on his choice of guests and why he had been giving a platform to only one side of the debate, and a very conspiratorial one at that. He and Smith were immediately defensive. But the real problem came when I raised the issue of expertise, because experts can get things wrong. My God, this guy's got an ego the size of Mount Olympus. Because, as I said then, and have said often, we have lived through a period when the experts have gotten an awful lot of things wrong. Yes, from the COVID lab leak, good, you acknowledge that, to the Hunter Biden laptop, we lived through years after which distrust of experts has become inevitable because the experts were paid off by corporate media and the establishment to lie to us. People don't like getting lied to, okay? Maybe that's just me. Do you guys like being lied to? Type 1 for, oh yeah, sure. I like being lied, cheated on, robbed from all the time, every time. Smack me in the face. Type 2, no, I hate all that crap. And if you lay a hand on me, I'm decking you out. I wonder how many 2s will be in the chat. Continue on. Yet that doesn't mean that expertise does not exist. It does not mean that a comedian can simply hold himself out as a Middle East expert and should be listened to as if he has a body of work. Well, I don't know. Maybe all the bombings in the Middle East, a comedian can say, man, we keep really effing up here. Maybe we shouldn't be involved in this place. I don't know. I think the comedian might be onto something, you know? That's just me. It does not mean that someone who says they're not a historian, but who practices false history should be cited as a historian. This point seemed to rile both Smith and Rogan. No, it didn't. You want to know what they did? They moved on afterwards, probably smoked some weed, and that was it. It appears to have riled their audiences even more, because many people seem to think that what I mean is that they are not allowed to have an opinion. That is wrong. I think they are. It's just that there should be a price to pay for spreading bullshit. And part of that price is that you should be called out. Oh, fuck off. Suck my dick. This guy. This freaking guy. This guy here. What the hell? Douglas Murray. Tell me, how did Joe Rogan and Dave Smith hurt you? How did this man hurt you? What did he do? As soon as the cameras went off, did Dave Smith throw a steel chair at you? Did Joe Rogan grab a baseball bat and take a swing at you? Because this is an article of a jealous ex-girlfriend. Continue on. Have you been there? Have you been where? If I had gone on Joe Rogan's podcast and held myself out as an expert in MMA fighting, I suspect he would have noticed. He would have laughed at you. If I had kept making mistake after mistake and shown ignorance piled upon ignorance, I think he'd say, hey, you don't seem very knowledgeable about this. Rogan has called out his guests before, okay? He's done this. And he'd be right. So why is it hard to grasp that something similar applies in other areas, in bigger rings and more important fights? Having spent almost the last 18 months in Israel, Gaza, Lebanon, Ukraine, I don't think I know everything. Well, good, you don't. But I think I know a darn slight more than someone like comic Dave Smith, who admitted he never been to the region he spends all his time talking about. Because maybe he's talking to people who've been there as well, journalists, reporters. Jimmy Dore's never been to the Middle East, but he's had people who have been to the Middle East, like, I don't know, Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, people of the gray zone. You know, he's had people who've been on the ground on his show, thus informing himself and his audience. Dave Smith has also had people on his show, on his podcast. And you know what? Then afterwards, I'm willing to bet maybe Dave Smith did his own research and looked at other sources of information. He never said he was an expert, but doesn't mean he's not knowledgeable. Just throwing it out there, baby. Just throwing it out there. Going on. Wow, this guy is like a jealous ex-girlfriend, man. Oh, so you have to go to a country to comment on it, do you? Said part of the internet. Again, the answer is obviously not. But if it is your job, or you're making it your job, then probably yes. If I filed columns for this paper pretending to be an expert on countries I've never been to, I would expect my readers to complain, as they should. If I filed columns about a war zone from the safety of West Palm Beach, I think it would be fraud. Journalism has had its own meltdown in recent years. But it doesn't mean that we don't have standards. Much, though, that might amaze some people. What the standards are in the new media, especially on podcasts, is still being worked out. But there must be some. Otherwise, the new media will lead people into errors and evils far greater than the old media could ever dream of. First of all, let's talk about your article. I've never seen such a sloppy one-sentence article my whole entire time. This is all heavily spaced, one sentence. It's stupid. Your segment about Attack Israel, all what you are is first bitching about Dave Smith. Then you talk about Daryl Cooper. Then you talk about Ian Carroll. And not once are you talking about Israel being attacked. You mentioned World War II, Hitler, and Churchill. Douglas Murray. The internet smacked you around and they made fun of you. You got to live with it, okay? Don't worry. There's going to be some other dumb moron that the internet will make fun of. Yes, the Joe Rogan podcast in which you got smacked around by Dave Smith is going to be immortal. But people will forget about it. But obviously, you seem to be triggered. You seem to be upset about it. And you have the maturity of a 5-year-old. Not getting over the fact that maybe, just maybe, you're not as holy as you think you are. Jesus Christ. Holy cow. I don't think I ever read such a more pompous piece of shite in my entire life. That, you know what, now, I actually feel sorry for Dave Smith and Rogan being in the same room with that guy. He's one of those people like, I didn't crap my pants. It was all of you.